I want to do two things. First, tell Derek, mate, I forgive you for all the nonsense, but believe me, now on, if you tell lies about me, I'm going to tell the truth about you. You better listen to what I got to say, and you'll find out the majority of what you've tried to push over is not the truth. So just leave it there. Well, I'm going to explain to you something. This is a letters patent for Western Australia, and it's for the Governor of Western Australia. Instructions. And this is the letters patent for the Office of Governor for the state of Western Australia. The reason I'm doing this way is to explain it so people get the idea what's going on. An act to confer a constitution on Western Australia. All put in. This one was put in, reserved the 29th of April 1889, Royal Assent 21st of October 1890. Then, what came after that is this Act. An Act to consolidate and amend the law relating to elections to the legislature. This Act may be cited as the Electoral Act 1889 and shall be divided into parts as herein follows. Part 1, registration of voters. Part 2, conduct of elections. Part 3, offences and penalties. Part 4, miscellaneous. Now this tells you how elections are run. It's in great detail how you register yourselves and the documents needed to register yourselves. They should be available, but they're not. Why not? Because all the smarter aleck politicians decided that they could. You've got to have a notice of claim and a list of claimants. So you've got to have all this here. Now, then you've got to have, this is your voting paper here. This one. This is how you have to vote. Now, when you look at this, you think, oh, well, you know, you would really want to follow the law. Some people say the Constitution wasn't proclaimed and gazetted. It wasn't done this, it wasn't done that. So I'm going to show you all the things in relation to that. Now, this is the Commonwealth Constitution Act, 1900 UK, on the 9th of July 1900. An act to constitute the Commonwealth, whereas the people in New South Wales, Victoria, Australia, all the rest of it, and the fact that it's got 9 clauses. Those 9 clauses, and it all refers to everybody who's involved in this system, including Western Australia, when you read here. And then you find out that Western Australia, because here, when you read clause 6, the Commonwealth shall mean the Commonwealth of Australia is established under this Act. The states shall mean such of the colonies of New South Wales, New Zealand, Queensland, Tasmania, Western Australia and South Australia, including the Northern Territory of South Australia, as for the time being are parts of the Commonwealth, and such colonies or territories as may be admitted into or established by the Commonwealth as states, and each of such parts of the Commonwealth shall be called a state. Original state shall mean such states as are parts of the Commonwealth at its establishment. Well, everybody, or some people, decided Western Australia didn't join with everybody else. But the proclamation in the Church of England office, St George's Terrace, Perth, says Western Australia was. Now, it's been said, and I'm not going into who said it because I've already talked about that. This is a letters patent with the royal seal, and if you could read it, it's pretty small, but you can actually get a copy out of the archives. It's got Queen Victoria's signature, everything, and warrant under the Queen's sign manual, Mer Mackenzie. He was the Queen's secretary at that time. He was responsible for putting this to us, and he did, and it's here, along with the seal. It's available from the archives, so it's there. And then you've got this. This is Commonwealth of Australia, letters patent passed on the Great Seal of the United Kingdom, constituting the office of Governor-General and the Commander-in-Chief of the Commonwealth of Australia. That's pretty clear. Well, you would think so, except for one thing. Again, a letters patent, again, signed off by Mer Mackenzie, the Queen's Secretary, who's charged, or consort, whatever he is, charged with the provision of these to the colonies. Now, the problem is, we've got people running around today talking about a republic, talking about this and the pros and cons. 99% of people don't want a republic, but that doesn't surprise me given the garbage we've been fed over the last few years, and especially by political parties, and not just going on one. We actually have a lot more to hand to you, and you have to understand. Now, Western Australia never put its lawful constitution in place as required by 106. Never did it. New South Wales in August 1902 removed theirs and replaced it. Now we've got a problem. We only got 4 of the 6 states required to create the first parliament, but we didn't have the 6 at Federation. Western Australia wasn't in it. They failed to comply with 106. Does that mean they didn't go into Federation? No. They went into Federation, but they had their only authority to set up a parliament and everything was under the state constitution. New South Wales removed theirs. We couldn't find a document that showed where they removed it, so we hunted around, and we found out a few weeks ago, or months, whatever, they decided to use the 1902 Constitution for the state of New South Wales to change the law in relation to magistrates so that they could call them judges. But they didn't say what law, because there wasn't a law in relation to magistrates. Magistrates are not in the Constitution. Have you got any answer for that? No, because you can't find one. Why not? Because they weren't in there. They didn't exist. So where did they come from? I explained it before. Now, this is the Colonial Laws Validity Act. Amazing piece of document, but I'm trying to see if Mackenzie signed off on that. Yeah, it did. So you can't repeal this. It's an Imperial Act, and its law is in this country under Clause 2. What I want to get through your head is an act to remove certain difficulties affecting land titles. Just one. Because there's none. This is an Imperial Act as well, by the way. So your land titles aren't dealt with by the Parliament. That's all lies and theft, political party, treason and fraud. It's all there. It's all here. Now, everybody says, oh, we got this, we got this. Well, actually you haven't, because there is no authority for any Parliament or governing body in this country, except the executive at federal level and the executive at state levels, to deal with this, with land titles. So all the stealing by the political parties and the transfer to digital and all that, that's all blatant treason. You can't say it's anything else. This, an act to provide for the surrender of territory in connection with the seat of government of the Commonwealth, and to ratify and confirm an agreement for that and other purposes, 14th of December 1909. And as I explained the other day, it didn't seem to sink in with a few people. The problems with this act, if that's what you call it. It's got schedules, agreements with the state and everything else. But when you go to 123, which is their biggest problem with their the nice job they did, 123. The Parliament of the Commonwealth may, with the consent of the Parliament of a state and the approval of the majority of electors of the state voting upon the question, increase, diminish, or otherwise alter the limits of the state upon such terms and conditions as may be agreed on, and may, with the like consent, make provision respecting the effect and operation of any increase or diminution or alteration of territory in relation to any state affected. A new state may be formed by separation of territory from a state, but only with the consent of the Parliament thereof, and a new state may be formed by the union of two or more states or parts of states, but only with the consent of the Parliaments of the states affected. The seat of government of the Commonwealth shall be determined by the Parliament, and shall be within territory which shall have been granted to or acquired by the Commonwealth, and shall be vested in and belong to the Commonwealth, and shall be in the state of New South Wales, and be distant not less than 100 miles from Sydney. Such territory shall contain an area not less than 100 square miles, and such portion thereof as shall consist of Crown land shall be granted to the Commonwealth. There's only one problem with this. It had to have permission of the people of the state under 123. It didn't have it. So this act is not only a fraud, an act of treason, and complete contempt for our Constitution. So what does that do at present? Because this I read from is the Commonwealth Constitution Act 1900 UK, as proclaimed and gazetted on the 1st of January 1901. This, by consent of the British Parliament and the monarchy, became the Commonwealth Constitution. Some say act, you can call it what you like. It is an act of the British Parliament, but the people voted to have a constitution. My opinion is it can't be an act. Some people say it can. They have all these other views. Not a problem. Keep your views. Now, this is an interesting act because it says the oath that you have to take if you're going to go into a parliament. Under section 42, every senator and every member of the House of Representatives, before taking their oath of office and their seat, shall take the oath or affirmation in accordance with the Constitution. And it say, I, A.B., do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Victoria, her heirs and successors, according to law, so help me God. That's the oath. You obviously change it if it comes up to someone else. I, A.B., do solemnly and sincerely affirm and declare that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Victoria, her heirs and successors, according to law. The name of the King or Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland for the time being is to be substituted from time to time, meaning if we get a new king, he becomes the middle of the oath. So now we have a huge problem because New South Wales, acting on an unlawful act, chopped off an area to create the seat of government. Prior to that, it sat in Melbourne right up until they set up the correct seat. And to partly conceal what they've done, it has the same area code as New South Wales, 02. Yeah, Anthony Andrews, I can see that, but stick to what I'm talking about, because you need to be clear on this. Some people put out the thing given yes or no to keeping the monarchy or not. It's not your choice, it's everyone's choice. Whether England keeps the monarchy or not is irrelevant to the fact whether we keep it or not. They're two separate issues. Two separate issues. We have no say in who's the king or queen or whoever. That is chosen by Britain. Colonial Law's Validity Act, when it's applied to the Constitution, is very clear. Even if this act had never been put in place, it is beyond the legislative authority of any colony to change, alter or interfere with any imperial law. End of the story. So if it's a valid law, we are bound by it, by Clause 5 of our Constitution. Clause 8 says, when the colonies become states, the Boundaries Act no longer applies. So where in the state constitutions, they can continue subject to this Constitution. So if there's no boundaries, when all the colonies become states, there are no electoral boundaries, none. Can you put them back? No. How do you put them back? With a referendum? Because the Parliament's not sovereign and supreme. They cannot make laws outside the authority granted by our Constitution. The reason I'm talking like this, because somehow it becomes very, very difficult for some people to listen. I'm not ridiculing those that ask again. Come on my Facebook page, ask me, and lots have. We've given them documents. We have documents to back up everything. The fact of the matter is, you can only vote for one person once under Section 8, one person once under Section 30. It is clear. You are bound by that. If you don't take the oath, you're not going into a parliament, you're going into a company known as the Australian Government, which does not exist in the Constitution, nor does it have any validity in law. So let's see what Australia is. Is it a constitutional monarchy? It's not a monarchy at all. It is part of the British monarchy. It is a self-governing colony of England. How do we know that? The second part of Clause 8 says, but when the Commonwealth is established, it's established as a self-governing colony of England. Self-governing colony of England. What sets it aside from England? The Constitution, which we accepted. We were given permission because the Constitution Act is an enabling act. It says so. It enables us to have a constitution. We accepted it. Western Australia came in the same time as everyone else and had to be compliant with 106, 107, 108 and 109. 107, 108 and 109 allows the states to exist. They're created by that. They're created by that. And they draw their authority referentially from the Commonwealth Constitution Act. 1900 UK, and the Constitution derived from it. Is that clear? Is it or isn't it? You need to make a decision. Because if it is, and it is, any law made pursuant to the Constitution binds the Crown to that law made pursuant to our Constitution. Why? Because we are self-governing. It was accepted what we put in a draft copy to England, and it came back a Constitution Act, enabling us to have a Constitution. Statute of Westminster, put in place in 1942, backdated in 1931, doesn't exist. You cannot backdate legislation. Why? Because this Constitutional Act of England, the Enabling Act, says you can't. Now, Immigration Act 1948 was backdated from 1973, doesn't exist. Why not? Well, it doesn't comply with the Constitution for one, so it's an act of treason against the Crown by changing the way people become residents in Australia. You have to be naturalised, which means you have to learn English, you have to learn our customs and beliefs and follow them, assimilate into our society, and above all, swear the oath contained in the Constitution, which I just read out. And they don't. Why not? Why don't they? because they think they being politicians from political parties, have all the say. You have none. You must understand, if you represent the people, you have to go into the Parliament and relate the will of the people to the Parliament on behalf of the people you are representing. Double Dutch? No. Pure, clean English. You represent people. You present the will of the people to the Parliament. I don't care what you think. Oh, the political parties, absolute crap and treason. Absolute crap and treason. You want me to repeat it again? It belongs in the sewer where the politicians crawl out of. I'm not referring to all the new politicians. I know some of them. I've been online and interacted with them, some small, some large. Some of them are nice people, quite a few of them are, in fact. But the ones that are career ones, like that moron in the head of the Greens, who wouldn't stand near the Australian flag, you are a traitor by your actions. You are a communist. And I know that, because you've stated that, you've studied that. You stood by two flags that have never been accepted by the people. I'm not saying they shouldn't be. They never have. Not one. Therefore, until they are, they're invalid. Aboriginals or natives or whatever you want to call them, if they want a flag, forget Keating and all his bunkum, and the fact that the colours on that flag they use is a black power flag. Have a look at South Africa's, have a look at black nations. They can have whatever colour they want. Why do they want to be different from the rest of Australians? Oh, we're not in the Constitution. That's a lie. The state constitution is very clear. Every native shall be fed. Every native shall be clothed. Every native shall be housed. Every native shall be given a small sum of money. Right up until half caste. Half caste is, I hate the word caste, half of a bloodline is a better way to explain it. A more respectful way, which is the only way we should be dealing with anybody, with respect. If you can't, shut your mouth and get the hell out of our parliament. We don't need you. We don't need grimes that keep sucking up to other countries and selling off our assets. You want to sell something to China, go and buy land in China and prove you can do it, because you can't. Chinese can't buy land in China. And some idiots talking about a republic? Oh, that's Channel 9. The bent and twisted moronic media for this country who never tell the truth. The Australian Bulldust Society is so bent and twisted they can't even work out. You can't do what you're doing. But if they can, and they're doing it, it's treason. That's why the heading is treason. The treasonous election. It is treasonous. If you don't walk away from this election and remain a candidate, you are going into this election as a traitor. Are you? Yes. Have you sworn the oath of allegiance? No. If you want to go in there and swear the oath of allegiance, it does not still clear you. I don't criticise Rod Colleton. I refuse to stay with him when he registered his company, regardless of how he registered. I told him at the beginning that's how it's going to stand. Did he swear the oath of allegiance at Badgingarra Roadhouse? I was there. He swore it. Not a problem. Yes, Mick, treason has no sunset clause. It's a serious indictable offence with no statute of limitations, which is what you're actually talking about. That's what it means. Political parties are raping and pillaging Australia and the people. Absolute, Mick. Absolute. Gimme tribe. Don't refer to natives of that. We are born in this country. We are native to this country. We are born in this country. We're here. How do we leave? in pieces to go to different countries? We're indigenous to this country. Were there people here before us? Absolutely. Were it the current ones? I have doubts. I would like to see evidence. And as for that rainbow snake going up that creek, costing that man $2,000, and all the time that you've dragged him through the court, you should be locked up for treason. Bob Brofo, Frank Brofo, Corey Bodney, and several others were the head of the Noongar group around Midland. I know Corey Bodney. I grew up with his kids. They used to come and stay at our place at the Pines in Maidavale. Used to come and have tea every night because, like everyone else then, there wasn't much food, there wasn't much money. Didn't matter, we had 14 kids. They just joined in. Who cares? They are normal people. I've spoken to young Corey since. His dad, unfortunately, had Alzheimer's and was committed to an institution. And I feel sorry for him. If he's still alive, I wish him well. If he isn't, it's too late. The fact of the matter is, Bobby Brofo was known as Bobby Woggle. It wasn't a rainbow snake. It was a snake that crawled up the rivers. If that's their belief, then that's their belief. Where's the evidence? I'm not talking about somebody from Queensland, which the Brofos are all from Queensland. They came into Western Australia with a Stuart troop, boxing troop. Check up, you'll find out I'm correct. You'll check up that Corey Bodney come from Victoria. As soon as he used to walk out of his facility he was in, he used to head up Greenmount, going back to Victoria. Anthony, unbelievable. You swear on the Bible in court and blasphemy wins. Well, actually, I'm not getting into it, Anthony, but that's not correct. I'm not going to get into it because wrong says resurrected voice inevitable. Penny Wong. Yeah, Wong, wrong. It doesn't matter to me. You got it wrong. You got it wrong. Who cares? It was a bit of Australian humour. If you take offence to that, boo-hoo, get over yourself. I don't go around insulting people. I do call them liars if they spread lies. If you're in a Labor Party, you're a criminal, you're a traitor and a fraud, and I can prove it. I have the documents. They're all here in this little group, all of them, and they prove you're wrong. The votes, there are no lawful candidates. I spent a lot of time thinking about how you should deal with it. So I came up with a letter. I, Wayne Kenneth of the Family Glue, attended at your polling booth to vote. I go there to vote. But I know both before I get there and when I get there, there are no candidates that are lawful. None of them. Why? Because this act actually makes them unlawful. We don't have a seat of government because it did not involve the people of New South Wales. I read to you 123. I would do it again so it's clear. But then you find the Parliament of the Commonwealth may, with the consent of the Parliament of the state and the approval of the majority of electors of the state voting upon the question. They didn't even get a chance. They never put it to them. Same as when they ripped the Northern Territory off South Australia. They didn't do it then. I've brought it up in courts to prove there are no lawful candidates and no lawful courts. How can Western Australia have a lawful court when the constitution they put in place, which establishes the courts, has never been there lawfully? It had 32 sections missing. I've got the lawful one here, which is a letters patent. Why are not the politicians and lawyers listening? Oh, because we swore an oath to the bar. Your oath to the bar under section 44 of the Constitution is an unlawful oath. Therefore, you're sitting in treason too. I don't care if section 5 of the Acts Amendment repeals Court and Legal Practice Act says you're an officer of the court. You can't establish a court without an oath of allegiance to the court, to the Crown, sit under the Crown, sit inside the Commonwealth, held to the Constitution and the common law. So we don't have any courts. When I challenged the jurisdiction of the court, the magistrate never came back in, put it to another one, but they've never ever answered the challenge to the jurisdiction. Chapter 3, Section 76, page 795 of the Constitution says, you will show where in the Constitution you get your authority. Until you do that, there are no lawful courts in Western Australia. There is none anywhere. When they, in 1979, they created the High Court Act to control the High Court, and Cullerton exposed that. He exposed it when Brandis said, we have a committee that makes the rules for the court. Hang on, we? We're the Senate or the Parliament or the House of Representatives? You're admitting to treason. What kind of a dodo are you? I can't believe you make the statements you do. But what you are saying is you're a traitor. Between 1, 2 and 3 of the Constitution is a separation of powers. A separation of powers between the parliaments of the states and the parliaments of the Commonwealth, and the separation in those powers is just really isn't a separation. They cross over because the politicians who represent the people go to the Parliament and put what the people want to the executive authority. The executive Parliament, which is the governor, well, go to federal. No, go back to states because they're the only lawful ones. Federal's not lawful and can't be. It has no seat of government and can't put it in right now. So they're liars and frauds. They've actually got it right. It is ours, the whole lot. Now, where's the problem with the Parliament? They all assemble, including the executive government, which is 10 from the lower house, 8 from the upper, selected by the governor of the states or the Governor-General at federal level. There's a letters patent for the office of Governor-General. I just read it to you. But Bob Hawke decided he could. Well, if you're a little stumpy, beer-swilling, moronic traitor, you can say anything. We don't have to believe you, and we don't. Lee Moran, I'm using the letter, thank you. No, thank you for doing it. Because the question of law is, where's the lawful candidate? Why not? Why don't you have them? So I'll go back to that. Now let's go back to what I was talking about. The Parliament puts the will of the people to the executive government, which is the governor in council. The governor at state level selects all the people who hold the portfolios, not the morons sitting in our Parliament claiming to be a government because they're not. Read your Constitution, it's clear. Now, that executive government puts the laws together. They come to the lower house of Parliament as bills. They're debated there. If they're passed, they go to the upper house. If they comply with our Constitution, they're sent back to the governor to sign on behalf of the Crown, which binds the Crown to a law made pursuant to the Constitution. If there's no authority, it's not a law and never can be. Who says so? The Constitution. The states only continue subject to the Commonwealth Constitution, which establishes them. That would have to be obvious. It would have to be obvious. I've spent most of my life studying these laws, on and off. Sometimes I go away from them for weeks, I do other things. But I look at the law and I'm saddened by the stupidity of people who run our so-called educational system. I'm saddened by it because you're teaching lies. If you think that a humble car with a 40-degree around there exhaust temperature pushes carbon dioxide and all the emissions up into the atmosphere, mate, you definitely got nothing between the ears. Because of a volcano which pushes it between 5 and 15 kilometres in the air, it comes straight down, fills all the valleys and gasses people, and you're trying to say the car pushes up there? You're a nut job. Nobody in their right mind would believe that. But the schools teach it, the Parliament pushes it, and the media pushes it as well. Why? It's all to do with money you're going to steal off us. Carbon credits, carbon this, carbon that. I don't have a carbon footprint. I don't have a carbon foot. It's flesh and blood. Come around here and bend over and I'll stick it fair in your butt and wake you up a little bit. Wake up. If you have a problem with emissions, how come, according to the experts, your experts, humans only produce 0.04 of 1%? So 0.04 is 4 100ths, or a little bit more. I don't care. Go back to the truth. It's a tiny little bit like that in comparison with the rest of the world. And you're using it to take the coal and the gas and everything out of this country and give it, because we're not getting much for it, or nothing at all, to China and to India. What about the people here? And then what are you doing? Oh, look at that. 1.2, 1.4 million Indians or immigrants. We haven't got enough houses now. Some lady contacted me this morning and a man separately. They have been kicked out of the forest. The forest belongs to us, not to the politicians. Does not belong to politicians. The Commonwealth is the people. The Constitution, page 701, the annotated one, has a diagram. The Commonwealth, quasi-sovereign, that's us. The supreme, absolute and uncontrollable authority remains with us. The Parliament is subject to the Constitution because it's below the Constitution. The Constitution is above the Parliament. It's in the diagram. It says that in the Constitution, page 676. At the bottom of that page it says the Parliament is not supreme, and the very essence of federation is that that must be so. The Parliament, like everyone else, is subject to the law and must abide by it. Fact. Page 791, the middle of the last paragraph. Neither the federal nor the state parliament are sovereign bodies. They're simply legislatures with limited authority. If they attempt to pass a law in excess of that authority, the law is a nullity and affords no obedience. So all these laws you pass, we can ignore them. Aboriginal Heritage Act, throw it in the bin. And what, the voice, that was nonsense. The native people didn't want it. 5,000 of them gathered in Alice Springs to both pray against it and then voted against it. Why did you want it, Albanese, so you could split this country? All you're doing, because you're a socialist, communist, you take 2 steps forward and 1 back. That's your regime. Socialist is just go like a bull to the gate and take everything you can before you get caught out. Literally a fact in law. You have some stupid idea that we are going to sit back and let you morons take this country. I'm going to give you a promise, because I know what's going on in the background. I don't have to tell you, because you're not people in authority. If you were, I'd be forced by law to tell you, but you're not. There's an ever-increasing number of people in this country that want the military to join us, the police to join us, ASIO, and not you idiots sitting in the tops of the courts called judges, but you're not. You're only, I won't say what I think you are, brain-dead clowns. You're quorums. A quorum is an unelected judge, a person impersonating a judge who isn't one. So you're not. Your own act says you can't sit in judgment of anyone as a quorum. Decisions of the High Court, even if they were legal, are binding on you. But do you listen to them? No, because you think you're above the law. And donkeys like Ann Toomey repeat the same thing after she knows the law says it's not true. The Parliament is not above the people. It's not above the Constitution. the Prime Minister is not above the High Court. That is all lies. Now, I tell you straight, under the provisions of Magna Carta, which is law, not a statute, it's law, it is actually known in the Constitution under Section 80 as the Great Charter, a Charter of Rights. See, Anne Toomey, you got it wrong, I got it right. Read the Constitution, it states that.